Hello, Sophie. This is a maybe brief opportunity for me to be able to speak with you. Today's Good Friday, and we just came from the service with all the children, offering the sacrifice of the cross for you and the children as you would want. I know so often I would say to you, Saint Sophie, and you would sort of kiddingly say that, oh, you're not a saint, but you were such a pure soul, and you may have got flustered with me on occasion. I remember that one time. I was it too. But you always had just that purity of love, which most of us can only strive for. And they think over the course of time you did become a saint. I think when we first met, I don't think you were a saint, because I remember those times when you used to wear, I was thinking about entering the priesthood, and you would wear those slinky shirts, silk shirts, and you would dance, and then you'd blow your finger, and I would just go, and make me breathe so heavily. That was supposed to be funny. I know that Mary thinks it wasn't funny, but I think it's funny. So I want you to know that I brushed my hair, for this video. I wanted to be able to share my best side for you and for the children and for the grandchildren. So I want to talk a little bit about romance, Sophie, and I just want to share with the children and just remind you about how much I just so love the sound of music. That was sort of the epitome of romance itself. I think of the time that it was our third date, and we went to JFK Library, and hadn't yet kissed you, and I was 30 and you were 24, and I held your hand at the sound of music, and I said this was true romance. And so I've told the girls, I said, there's that great movie we've all watched and called 27 Dresses, and I said they were deal breakers for that particular young sister of the girl that worked for George. So I told the girls that they're a deal breaker. If they don't like the sound of music, that's a deal breaker. So I hope you girls remember that, and I hope you tell your girls the same thing. If a guy doesn't like the sound of music, send them walking. But the idea of romance and marriage and commitment to his marriage is something that's been fortified by children. I remember one of the first times we had a discussion about how many children we were going to have after we got married, and I said to you, I said, well, maybe 2 or 3, and I said to you, I didn't think I'd make a very good father. You gently reminded me that that wasn't what we agreed upon, and so as probably more often than not you were right and I was not, and the proof is in the pudding. But you want to talk a little bit about the great sense of love that you had and that you helped me share. I remember after Matt was born, we had this amazing love affair with our new child. And then John, we had another, love affair. And I think it started around the 3rd child we had. Was just, well, how many are you going to have? And people would ask these silly questions. And And you had this sort of great response that the love of 2 children or 3 children, the love doesn't divide, it multiplies. And you use the Eucharist as a great example of that. So, when we had Andrew, and so, we weren't dividing the love between 3 people, we were multiplying it. And so it was at that point easy to have a large family and to just grow together as a couple and as parents. And just the bond of marriage, which was established by God in the very first book of the Bible. And he said, be fruitful and multiply. That was part of our call, and part of that call that you just were so devoted to. And the way you spent yourself entirely and committingly in an unselfish, untiring way was a tribute to you as a person, as a wife and as a mother, and it helped me to become less selfish, or more selfless, I should say. I was 30 years old when we met, and lived with my mother, my Italian mother, who cooked and did all this stuff. And it was easy to be selfish because I could just come and go as I pleased. And but having a wife and children, learned how to be selfless, and to learn the idea of sacrifice and discipline, which you so emulated and was such a model of. I'm reminded of this great passion that you had for the faith, and how you carried it on, and at every stage, at every time, no matter when it was, day and night, and how you prayed for the children and had masses said for the children. How we prayed together, and how you just supported the children in every phase, and I think it's been said on occasion by me, and that you were their biggest fan, and always behind them, no matter what the circumstance was, and probably as some of the girls have said, Lizzie and Mary, you were the loudest fan as well. The way you would cheer, and unabashed that anybody might say anything. You just supported your own children as well as the team, and it's just a great thing. And I remember the little prayer cards you'd make for the St. Bridget's and for the girls at Notre Dame. Just a marvelous tribute to the faith, and when I think about the faith, I want to really just focus on 2 things that you said that I think if I had to carry them on and pass them on, if you will, to the children and our grandchildren, it would be to do God's will. That was central and focus. The central focus is to do God's will, and no matter what the circumstance, and no matter what the cost. And, I think Matt, said it, quite well at the time we had the vigil service for you, that you'd go through all the suffering again that you've gone through with regard to the cancer for the sake of saving one soul. And that was your modus operandi. Just do God's will in every circumstance. The other one that sort of just sticks out, so clearly was that God will not be outdone in generosity. And so when it came time that, when we were having to make a decision to send the kids to Catholic school or to make contributions, as part of our income, you said that whatever you give to God, He'll give back 100-fold. And I think that's, been proven and demonstrated so clearly in our lives. And so I think that, that idea of the spirituality that you brought to the family, basically through the rosary, and which you brought to everywhere, and that, through Mary, she would, in her humility, would always just bring people to her son, was, maybe a third focus that I want to talk about. I've seen it in our own children, and it's this, again, it's a tribute to you that they have grown so, amazingly in their love of the Blessed Mother, and in their attraction and devotion to the Eucharist. I think I'd like to, sort of get to a closing point and talk a little bit about, the finer points of marriage. And I know there were times when we would bicker and dispute and argue and a lot of other, unnecessary things that seemed discomforting even to the children. But what the children did not see were those so many, many occasions when we would moan and groan at each other, but we'd then lay together in bed, not in any romantic fashion, but just, I would hold your hand, you would hold my hand, you would caress my hand, I'd caress your hand, and forgive each other for the level of unkindness that sometimes we showed. It was maybe something we should have shared a little bit more with the children, and I guess in this small way we're doing that now through these words. But the level of romance and love, even during these last months, were just significantly special. In large part, many times going to Philadelphia with you, even though you were not well, it was our private time, and we just go and shared, prayed, go and prayed some more, to and from the center to the hotel. We'd find our own special spot at the back of the bus where we could be alone and share the rosary or share the chaplet
and he brought both of us such great strength and consolation.
I wanted to just talk a little bit more about, the times that we spent in Philadelphia, and it's sort of different because my mom was ill and had difficulty getting around, and I had to carry this bag and that bag, and notwithstanding it was sort of sometimes physically draining, it was so welcoming for me to have the opportunity to be of service to the one that had been of service to me countless thousands of times, and obviously to all of the children. So for me to just have that opportunity to, I don't know if the word give back is right, but to share in those moments that cement the marriage. It was so secure, and even in the difficulty of the physical infirmity, there was a sense of strength and bonding that occurred, and maybe security is a word too, that just allowed us to be of one mind, one heart, one body, that union that comes with the sacrament of marriage.
It's, even in these last days, one of the times when you were more alert with us and we were saying the rosary, and I was holding your hand, and you were holding mine. And then you reached over with your other hand and just caressed my hand, and just demonstrated it in the limited strength that you had, what great love you had for me. So I want the children to know that marriage was not always perfect, but it became perfected through prayer, through the great love that we had for each other.
It's just a great testament that you bring to the family. I'd like to just talk about one other thing that seems to be impressed upon my mind, and that is that, Sophie, you so definitively the center in the heart of the family. Obviously, when you were the spark and the energy, when you were well, there clearly was no one that took the center stage, if you will, for us in the family, to be able to be the cement that glued everybody together. But even now, as you lay in the hospital bed that we have downstairs, and can't communicate as much as you'd like to, as much as we know you'd like to, you're still the heart of the family. People go to you and they get strength from the courage that you bring to just hanging out with us and struggling to be with us. And I think if we look back on this time that the Lord has given us, even when you've been non-communicative, we will draw such great strength and courage from having seen you, my wife, and you, their mother, just bearing with us and bearing suffering for the sake of others.
So, at this time, I want to, when absent God's direct and divine intervention, He's going to call you home, where you so gratefully belong, because of your great kindness and great love. We want to take this opportunity to share with you an account about Padre Pio. Padre Pio, as most Capuchin friars do, is if they have the opportunity to do so, when they're on their deathbed, they, and as Carmelites, they renew their vows. So at this time, I would like to renew my vow to you that I made 32 and a half years ago.
I, Robert, do take you, Sophie, as my lawful wife, from this day forward, to have and to hold, in good times and bad, in sickness and health, until death do us part. I love you, Sophie. Please, when you enter into the gates of the kingdom, please pray for me as the father of your children, to be able to bring them a portion of what you were able to share with them.